We're going to bring in right now Melanie Zanona to this conversation, MSNBC political contributor and Punchbowl News senior congressional reporter. Melanie, we just heard Speaker Mike Johnson say that he talked to President-elect Trump 45 minutes before the vote. Then he added he spoke to Elon Musk right before that. Was Johnson looking for Musk's approval? And if so, are other Republicans okay with that?
He had to get Musk's approval. He had to get Trump's approval. That is how the Congress is operating right now. And Trump is not even in office. And that's going to be how it's going to operate for the next 2 years. There's going to be a real reluctance by whoever is the speaker, whether that's Mike Johnson or someone else, to get out ahead of Donald Trump or Elon Musk, because they have seen what has happened when they moved ahead with a bill that didn't already have their blessing. There were problems with the initial spending package they put together even before Elon started trashing it on Twitter, but it was because of him and then Trump who really blew it up and threw this 11th hour debt ceiling demand into the mix that really complicated things for Mike Johnson. So I do think going forward, he is going to want to sort of pre-negotiate, pre-discuss what's happening before he moves forward, because he wants to avoid these big blowups. But what I will say is this whole episode has really reminded us that, yes, it's a lot easier to blow up a bill, to tank a bill, than it is to actually find consensus among Republicans and to govern. And that's going to be a lot harder over these next few years with a razor-thin majority.
And Democrats, why did they, Melanie, decide to go along with the bill?
They were really wrestling with what to do here. They have seen that Johnson is no longer a trusted negotiating partner. I think for them, they felt like they got their win by denying that second bill, which did have the Trump demand, the debt ceiling in it. They essentially got to embarrass Johnson in front of his own conference. And so I feel like they walked away with a win. They're going to save that debt ceiling fight and save the leverage that comes along with it for the new year. And ultimately, they didn't want to shut down either. I mean, this has been the storyline, though, of the entire 118th Congress. It's been Democrats who have put up the votes, the votes that got all these significant bills over the finish line. They're the ones who saved Mike Johnson's speakership. So they have been a critical governing partner despite being in the minority. And I think one thing that Democrats are really wrestling with is, where do we sort of pick and choose our spots to work with the incoming administration versus where do we try to go up against the administration? And that is something that is going to be an ongoing storyline as well over these next few years.
So, Allie, the question is, does Trump not think or even worry that the near shutdown chaos prompted by Elon Musk and his own demands might indicate a future administration that's just filled with chaos and driven by an unelected billionaire? By the way, when the Trump's transition team has to put out a statement that Trump is the leader of the Republican Party, what does that say?
Yeah, Alex, well, the whole time we knew that the president-elect had seen this as a low-risk scenario. We know that under his first term, there were 3 government shutdowns, one that ended up being the longest in U.S. history at over 30 days long. But throughout this process, we have seen how quickly Republicans, especially on the House side, could come to his aid and could aid him in getting what he wants across the finish line. But what we've also seen throughout this process, this transition process, is how some Republicans have really bucked his desires. You saw Republicans put up a front after he picked Matt Gaetz, for Attorney General, and the opposition we saw from Republicans on the Senate side. You're seeing how House Republicans, over 30 of them, voted against what he wanted to be included in this final package on the second vote. And so there are Republicans that he is learning he cannot get full support from when he wants to get this through, something, though, that I'm sure he's considering after January 20th, when he does take office, with legislation that will happen over the next 4 years, Alex.
Julie, you contributed to this article that was written by Sahil Kapoor, with whom we're going to be speaking later. But are we going through this all over again in March? And if so, what is that going to look like?
It'll look a lot like it looked like the last year and a half when we were going through this every few months, despite the Republican trifecta in the House, the Senate, and across Pennsylvania Avenue in the White House. And that is because, as Melanie said, Johnson's going to have an even tighter majority. Think about this. He can only lose 1 Republican vote on January 3rd if all Democrats vote for Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker, which they are expected to do. That is so tight when you consider you have a handful of Republicans this week who are not committed to voting for him, who are floating Elon Musk as speaker. So this is going to be extremely challenging to legislate, to do anything. In fact, if he does end up securing that vote on January 3rd, that could perhaps be the easiest thing that he does the next 2 years. But they are going to have to get into work. They have a 10-week session, at least in the Senate, right when they get back in January. That is a long time to spend together under one roof. In the words of one senator included in that article with Sahil, Senator Ron Johnson told me that what they're trying to do is actually under-promise and over-deliver. I'm not sure if they are actually under-promising anything, but you're going to have multiple fights next year, government funding, debt ceiling hike, which Republicans aren't happy about, by the way, so Trump knows he's going to need Democrats to do that. And it's going to be just a huge mess, which isn't my quote. It is what many lawmakers have told us in this article and, of course, in our reporting over the last couple of days.
Can you imagine, though, to your point, one vote away from the prospect of Hakeem Jeffries being Speaker of the House? I mean, stranger things have happened, right? Anyway, Melanie, many Republicans still did not vote for the final bill. So generally speaking, who are they? And were they daring to defy Trump?
Yeah, I mean, they were, especially on that one bill that had the debt limit demand. You had 38 Republicans who voted against it. So that was a little surprising, even for some of us on Capitol Hill, to see that level of Republicans. Most of them were fiscal conservatives, people who have made, cutting back spending really a hallmark of their congressional careers, a lot of Freedom Caucus members. But there were some surprising votes in there as well. There was a member of the leadership team, Blake Moore from Utah. There was some retiring members, which are also kind of interesting votes if you're leaving Congress in 2 years anyway. I think the big picture here is that there are some moments where there's going to be some willingness to defy Trump. I don't think there's going to be a lot of those moments, but there's going to be some clashes between the executive branch and the legislative branch. And as far as the primary threats, I was talking to some members on Capitol Hill this week, and they said, well, guess what? Trump can't primary all of us. In the end, I think it was 170-something Republicans voted for that final bill that Trump didn't like. You can't primary 170 Republicans.
Protection in numbers. Yeah.
Exactly. There's strength in numbers. And I think some of these folks, like a Chip Roy, he was really leading the charge against the idea of raising the debt ceiling. He has really strong name ID and a strong brand in his district. He is well liked amongst his constituents. I think once, this starts playing out, it's going to get old hearing all these primary threats. That being said, I think for the most part, Republicans are going to want to do whatever Trump says, though.
Let me ask one quick question to each of you. Your quick takeaway from what we learned. I'll start with you, Allie. Allie Ruff, are you hearing me? I think we might have lost IFB. Okay, let me move to you, Julie. Quick thing on what we learned from all this.
Well, Alex, that is a very loaded question, but I'll try to be quick. It's that we are going to be living in the Capitol, myself and Melanie included, and that in the words of Speaker Mike Johnson to me last night, get ready for the hardest work of your lives. That's journalists included here. Okay.
And lastly to you, Melanie.
That's so great, Julie. I was going to say that there are limits to Trump's influence on Capitol Hill. That's number one. And number two, Elon Musk is going to be quite a pest, I think, for the GOP leadership over these next few years.
I think we have Allie back. Allie, do you want to weigh in on the one thing that you learned quickly from this whole incident, this whole episode?
Yeah, Alex, I think the one thing that we've learned is just to expect there to be Republicans that aren't willing to do everything that Trump is demanding. And that could possibly be a growing number over the next 4 years, Alex.
We shall see. Ladies, thank you all so much.